Any, as far as the depression goes, which ones were the best?
What was the best depression?
The best people that helped
Do you want me to try to think? Do you want... This is what I am looking at. How on earth am I supposed to, like, debrief about this whole Camino in that?
Well, I'm in a reflection.
I don't mind you.
Oh, fine, I'll put it back. You want to put it back? Sit you in a shot.
Hey, buddy.
Hello. So we just went through a town that we crossed the Orbiga River, which had what we've heard is one of the longest Roman bridges.
It's in the town Hospital de Orbigo. This 13th century bridge was built over an even older Roman bridge. It's known as Paso Honoroso, Honorable Crossing. Its name is a tribute to a legendary medieval tournament in 1434. The story goes that a chivalrous knight from León named Suero de Quiñones challenged 300 knights to a joust, refusing to let them cross this bridge. The fight was for love, and the knight later won the heart of the woman who held his own. Camino expert and author John Brierley made a connection about this historical site that could not have been more perfect to explain this day on our Camino. He wrote, "What of our own inner battles, the jousting tournaments of the soul? How easily do we fall, and how quickly do we get up again? True greatness is not in never falling, but picking ourselves up every time we do."
But we were thinking, reflecting on our trip so far.
The Meseta was the hardest. For me, I got kind of down. It was like, what am I doing here? What's the point of life?
And then the feet started to hurt. The muscles started to be a little strained. Got bit up by who knows what.
So we were wondering which came first. Did the negative attitude cause the extra aches and pains, the bug consciousness? The negativity for me came first before all the physical ailments.
It's just what you choose to put your consciousness on. And I was just thinking, like, in the normal course of life and your work week, when you do get a bump in the road, try not to dwell on that because it can steamroll and I think affect your body, affect your immune system, and all that stuff. So we're out of our funk and we're almost into the next town.
Buen día, buen camino.
Buen día.
Gracias.
Festive Colombian cyclists consistently lifted our spirits. Along with lighter packs, today we sent our overnight gear forward through a pack service.
Hey, check this out. Smooth transitions. Osmo's like, hey, cut it out.
Walking by the small dairy, we realized it's been a while since we've seen livestock. Cows like these are to thank for our mass consumption of café con leches while walking this Camino. The creamy caffeine was our liquid motivation and an indulgence that always brought us joy. So thank you, Spanish cows. Gracias por tu leche.
This is Go-Go Gadget Speed Racer Kristin.
I had plenty of reasons to be happy. But for some reason, this stretch brought me to my mental breaking point. It happened maybe a mile before we first saw Astorga, before passing by the stone cross called Crucero de Santo Toribio that welcomes you to the city. As we walked, memories of a past frustration slowly started to bubble up in my mind. Maybe the warmth of the day added to the inner fire that brought that frustration to a rolling boil.
So this was the moment that I broke. And what broke me was thoughts of personal weakness, of not being strong enough to stand up for myself. So a couple years before the Camino, Peter's dad moved in with us for a month.
My dad was having some financial issues that were jeopardizing his living situation. we decided to come, he could move in with us, and that he could house sit while we were gone, because we were going to be gone like the entire month of March.
18 months later, we finally forced him to leave.
The 1 year mark, there was a lot more tension with my dad. Kristin had a lot of hostility and issues at work also. So I felt like she dreaded going to work, and she also dreaded coming home, so there was no safe place for her.
But I just couldn't say, you need to leave, or you need to pay rent, or you need to contribute. I just did not have the strength to say anything. And at that point, Peter had to choose between us. Peter had to choose between his dad, who had left him when he was a kid, or he had to pick me, because he couldn't have both. And there was a while that I didn't know what he would choose. So I was thinking about this on the Camino, walking, and it just kept coming up. And these thoughts, the negativity had come up during the Meseta, but it had finally just I'd had enough. And I threw my poles down and I put my butt in the dirt and sat there and put my hands over my eyes and I cried. And as I was crying out that negativity and that anger and that disappointment in my lack of strength, something else happened. I was filled up with gratitude. Thoughts started to come about the people that God had put in our life to help us through that challenge in our marriage. I started thinking about our friend Yvonne, who is a pastor and my mentor. And I was thinking about how she just poured into us. She started counseling us. She started checking in on us, giving us skills on how to spend more time together, things to say to work on all of our relationships. And I was just so grateful being able to finally see it in that perspective, to try to see where God's hand was in one of the most challenging times in our relationship.
And this is why we came to walk the Camino, to heal, to set our lives on a new trajectory.
And once that gratitude came, it just felt like that whole challenge had just been purged emotionally from me. Like I was finally ready to get over it.
Looking back at that initial moment of emotional defeat, John Brierley's words from earlier in our day were perfect. How easily do we fall, and how quickly do we get up again? True greatness is not in never falling, but picking ourselves up every time we do.
Because I think the last 3 years have really been the hardest ever. Hardest on our relationship. We also grew the most. Challenges are hard, as long as you get through them.
We arrived in Astorga and checked in to Albergue de Peregrinos Siervas de Maria, Servants of Mary. Freshly showered and basking in a setting sun, I felt emotionally cleansed. What I didn't know was that by the next morning, I would also feel physically cleansed. But it won't be an enjoyable process.